more of an informational panel. The whole idea was kind of just to answer some questions and kind of like, I mean, it's been almost, well, 2.5 years I've been since like the ATM, almost 3 years removed since the last BotCon. So the last time that I actually was involved with producing any actual product. I mean, we were still working on product pretty much all the way to the end, but the idea was more to just kind of give you insight into some stuff that's never been really made public. Not really like dishing dirt. I'm sure I'll probably go in that territory a little bit because I'm talking and then it comes out. But more kind of just talking about some of the things that, again, that have never been made public as far as in the toys. The whole point of it being called Oops, and again, I can go in and you can see the stuff in the showroom if you want. Like I said, there's not really any pictures to see because if it was an Oops, you've already seen it. And if it was a pre-production item, you've already seen it. Because I mean, you're all show you've been to, you see the stuff we have, the whole production samples for sale and stuff like that. I think what I want to do is just kind of talk about, and I guess I'm Pete Sinclair, by the way. I figure you guys probably know who I am.
You're Pete Sinclair. You used to work in Fun Publications.
Yes, right? Thank you. You just did my intro. So, and this is Sean Tessman. He did the custom classes, and Jesse Wittenrich, who was a contractor who worked. He's my partner in this show. It's called Pete's Robocon. That was never a vanity thing. It was more of a, as BotCon was ending, since I did a lot of the PR and stuff for BotCon, and was known as Pete BotCon, was a way to kind of carry that over to this new concept, the show, which is a much more of a niche focus show. I know it sounds cliche at this point, but when we talk about the show being a focus on vendors, artists, obviously we're wanting to grow the kid interest and on fans, and not having to worry about you guys coming and spending $400 on autographs and stuff like that before you get to the dealer room. So that's kind of what we are, but that's not what we're here to talk about. So when we worked on FunPub, it was definitely a process that evolved over the course of the 12 years. People, I remember I've said this before, I remember people would be on board saying, oh, they can't do that because that's not, they've said before that, you can only do, you can't do this, you can't do that, or you have to, this stuff approval or whatever. What people I don't think understood was that things were, as a brand team, always changed, and as our relationship changed with Hasbro, the rules were always changing. So what was, and that's, I'm not saying they changed them on us, I'm just saying rules would change. What we could do would change the years, what we couldn't do would change the years. At one point, they wanted us to stay as far away as possible from what they did mainstream, and then towards the end, they wanted us to fully embrace the mainstream, to be part of that. Hence the set, the Combiner Wars predicate set. As far as the Oops, we want to talk about the PR Oops, we can talk about that. But which is always fun, which I usually don't talk about. But as far as the product Oops, it's kind of funny because actually the height of this panel actually kind of came. Jesse and I will sometimes we'll just sit there and talk, and we'll be talking about stuff, and I'm like, I cannot believe we didn't do that. Or I can't believe we did do that. And some things that seem so simple that you should have done, and you realize you didn't. It's just that's hindsight 2020 and all that. So my biggest disappointment, and it was bad timing because at that point I was working for the company at the time, but I wasn't fully involved with the production and all the approvals, which I was definitely in the last 4 or 5 years, but not really in those first 3-4 years. I would kind of see the Photoshops and maybe get a sample, but usually be after it was already in production. So I wasn't really getting that final sign off, which I really had in the last 4 or 5 years. That punch counter punch was it was the biggest disappointment of anything I ever worked on for FunPub. I know it's stupid or it sounds stupid. I know it's not stupid. We all are in toys, but it almost to anybody on the street would sound trivial to sit here and think that your disappointment is from a character's head being too small. But we were so excited to do that toy, and the head turnaround looked so sharp that Dan commented, and if it had been full size, it would have just been such a stellar figure. And then when that toy showed up, it was too late to change anything. It showed up with that small head. I was just totally busted up about it and I cried. I was just totally heartbroken in the sense of being just feeling like a total like you totally failed much more approvals. So when China would try to say, hey, that head you designed, because again, we're coming on the back end of it, right? The toys are designed, and we're coming in trying to fit. You know, it's like when they do construction, right? When they're creating new roads, you know, they build a 2-lane road that's been there for 20 years. That probably took them a couple months, but then they try to add on, you know, 2 more lanes. This is Cincinnati, this is everywhere. They try to add on 2 more lanes. Like it's a year and a half because you're trying to add on to something that's already there, the existing infrastructure. Same thing. You try to put a head that wasn't originally intended for that. It's going to take a lot more resources and a lot of wiggle room and kind of back and forth. So, you know, when we did the 2016 Megatron, they wanted to shrink it by 20%, and I'm like, no. And I know they wanted to shrink the Predator's head by like 30%, and they still shrink it a little bit, but I was freaking out because like if that Megatron head it comes out any shorter, so we actually did stuff to the toy and the sides of the head, things like in the neck. We did stuff. If I can take some off the neck, don't shrink the head, just cut some off the neck. So the neck was like that. And I'm like, yeah, cut that down a little bit, and then it's going to fit all the way down. So at that point, we got to the point where we could actually work with China to make sure that they fix stuff or made corrections to it without actually just doing the doomsday button of just shrinking it, or just easy, let's just shrink it. No. So that was something I was so if anything, that made me much more sensitive to that going on. The Cheetor head from Animated, at that point we had a hand sculptor doing them, and I saw the head, and I didn't, at that point again, I was still kind of not new, but in the approval processes, maybe I was naive at that point, or still, like I said, young in my experience level with that, just assuming that, not really looking at the picture, looking at the toy, and not realizing they didn't match up. So of course the Cheetor head came out, the Animated Cheetor head, and you guys are all familiar with the toys I'm talking about, right? If you need me, that's why I didn't worry about the visuals, because you all know what I'm talking about. And I don't want to build a giant back, spend a few hours just doing a comparison when you guys have already all seen it. The concept of the Cheetor head from Animated versus the finished product, it just that didn't turn out. Now that doesn't kill me like the punch counter punch, but again, that was a lesson for me to really make sure that we paid a lot more attention to the heads that are being sculpted, and that I think helped with the Obsidian from 2013, because the original one was way off. I remember looking at it and I was like, I'm not gonna do another Cheetor, that's gotta be completely redone, and really being on top of having the edits made going forward. So those were kind of the oops there from a product standpoint. Definitely, if I had to pick 5 toys off the top of my head that I wish we could. Now let me make it really clear: 92%, I can say 92% of what we did, I'm thrilled with. I think it was the right choice. It was it worked. Maybe the set makeup maybe didn't work. Maybe we should have had it at a different point in time. Maybe for the story what we're trying to do, maybe it would have made more sense to do something else. But as far as actual execution, I would say 92% of what we produced turned out great. I'd say the top 5 toys that were the biggest bombs in my mind, maybe not worth nothing, but just didn't work out, was the punch counter punch Cheetor, the Shattered Glass Soundwave. As popular as he is, I don't like how his face, he had the thing, again, that was kind of early, that was still that early on, again, that was before 2013 with the Obsidian. I was still early on where I really wasn't paying as much attention, but that was not so good. The Overlord from that year, and probably was another head that was busted. Might be
DEFCON.
Ravage. Just because the antenna is flat.
Yeah, Ravage. I don't have so much an issue with the Ravage head. It could have. I think what would have saved it is if my bigger issue was that it wasn't. That was a wrong toy. We should have, when we realized the head was a fit, we should have picked a different car.
The wheeljack mold would have worked nice.
Yeah, we were running out of time was the problem. When you start running out of time, you don't have time to go back and change molds. But I think if we could have gotten the balls when we would have sat a lot flatter on there, it would have been as.
It's sort of the same with the Megatron when you're talking about the neck. They put too much gap there for the neck.
Yeah.
Like we designed it to have that head sitting almost flush.
Yeah.
So they popped up I don't know.
It's sitting off of there like that with the
Yeah.
flat back. It just
So that affected the clearance on the top of his head.
Yeah.
And they just went ahead and squished it to get around, how there's that 5mm peg that drops down from the top of the hood of the car. So yeah, I sat there and I drew all of those details about how you sculpted the nose to go around the peg and everything. But yeah, they popped it back up. And of course the mat didn't fit. And it just squished the whole head. Yeah, Dakota has the actual head.
I didn't bring them with me. I brought them last
Yeah,
year.
he
Yeah,
brought
the
him last year. He
Yeah, the
had-
original head was more rounded. They said that's not gonna work. And they had it, but I think that could have been saved a little bit by that. But yeah, I think really the for me again, it's the punch, the Chior, the sound wave, the Metal Hawk, and probably the
Well,
Overlord, which all came from
What's
Mexico.
interesting about the Metal Hawk was
The turnaround was perfect.
the
drawing
turnaround.
was
The
great.
turnaround was good. The wax was good. I loved the wax sculpt. But then when we get it back from the factory,
The factory that we sent it to did robots. They didn't do humans.
like 80% of the detail that was in the face got melted off somehow. I don't know how, but it was like this really nice. It looked almost like a He-Man type face to it. But yeah, that was like all gone. The nose got pinched. The cheeks, the pronounced cheeks were gone. He had like a what's the chin? The actor with the chin. He had like the cleft, the heroic cleft chin. That was gone. So yeah.
So there's your, that's your product. Theme sets. Obviously the Machine War set was way too niche.
That was a great set. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Yeah. I think I don't think the messaging was there. The whole idea was it was supposed to be a wave 2 of Machine Wars. It was supposed to be Machine Wars Series 2. Some of the character choices probably we probably should have just either went all in on Machine Wars. Because I know we tried to work Electron in, which probably didn't make sense because we needed repaint. I think we should have maybe just had a few Machine War characters. Maybe we probably needed a Prime, and we probably needed a Soundwave. Yeah, well, I would have just scrapped voice altogether, to be honest with you. I would have went with Mirage and
Voice
I would
was
prefer Prowler.
external to Fun Club decision.
What?
More or less. Voice was sort of an external decision.
Oh, right, yeah, maybe. But I think I think the Striker and the Obsidian were, like I said, if we would have, I think the messaging really, yeah, that really should have been a wave 2. Speaking of that, another oops, the factory was supposed to have sent the Strike Ahead with the class kit that year, but they sent the
No, it's They sent, yeah, they sent the striker head, it was supposed to be the warp head.
yeah, it was supposed to be the Warpath head, so we could have done too.
Just a more accurate blast charge. That's
Yeah.
it is, it's just
That's
striker
right.
and blast charge color.
Yeah, that's what it was supposed to be. 2011 turned out great. There's really no issues with that set at all. 2010 again, it was, I think the messaging wasn't there. We tried to do it as we tried to encompass the G2 and the Euro. We should have maybe done a little bit better. 2009, I think for the time of what we had at the time, what the goals that were available to us, that was about our best option. Yeah, I mean, we did not have many options that year. 2008, of course, was, even though mold options again were somewhat limited, turned out to be great. Ricochet, we ran out of, that's the whole reason you got a Shadow Glass Stepper, because we ran out of time on Ricochet, and I didn't have the idea of inverting the oranges and blacks until after it was already too late. We just finally just picked colors. I'm like, just pick a maroon, because we couldn't come up with the idea. And we should have done the same for Jazz. We should have inverted the colors. So we should have inverted the colors for them. Those are really the only mistakes I feel like we made with those two. But again,
Spence will point out the blur head and blur.
yeah, that was the other thing. We should have, once we were going to do a blur head, we should just pick a new mold. But I mean, it was kind of, in retrospect, they all kind of work. I mean, like I said, Ricochet, I was the only one that really, I think, needed something else.
It gives you a different character when you look at that head sculpt. It's not, if you put a G1 blur head on there, it's just gonna look like G1 blur. It'll look like a stealth blur or something like that, if he's just wearing black. But with the yelling face and the eye patch, it really sells that it's an evil blur.
2007, 2006, 2005 were all solid. Working backwards and going forwards again. 2013, 2014.
I'd say the years when they went back to like the Troop Builder stuff, like
Yeah.
or Sergeant Con, Sweets.
Or and I'm going to go to the next segment here, which will be storytelling. But going back to the 2014 set or something, I was going to say, maybe it was 2014. 2015 War Rooters, that was just a bad decision. That was a big oops doing a 4-pack because of what we had to make on the price and not realizing that unlike the Seekers 4 Waspinators, even though I thought it was cool, just that was cool to have 4 Waspinators in kind of very cool color schemes that also were based on some existing characters and some unproduced stuff, just didn't have the same appeal as the 3 Seekers, so we probably should have done a 2-pack on that. 2016, the biggest oops was ever letting go of the editorial on the story. That should have been Beast Wars Uprising. That's me kind of just talking a little dirt I really shouldn't be doing, but that was, we should have kept that in-house. I really was very determined to get a relationship with IDW and having our comics at retail, and that never happened. That was kind of part of the deal. Once we found out that our relationship with Hasbro was going to be ending at the end of 2016, I should have just stopped that and just went out telling our own story. So that's a big regret of mine.
The brochure even said Beast Wars Uprising.
Yeah.
'Cause, like, yeah.
We should, and you notice we did tell some Beast Wars Uprising text stories. We went back and used a lot of the toys, so they actually do fill in those. But that story is not a fun pub story, and it's not associated with us. So I'm not going to talk to the quality of the story. I'm just saying it's just not something that I wanted to tell. In hindsight, at the time I was excited about it because again I was thinking that was going to get us the retail and kind of like finally getting that retail tie-in to IDW, which I really worked for a long time. But that was just a bad job on my part from a marketing standpoint. The other going backwards, storytelling. The one regret I've had when it comes to storytelling is that we didn't tie in a little bit more between convention and clubs. I feel like that we could have done a little better job there. That's one thing I considered an oops. Not maybe like the year we did Rampage and Transmutate was 2014. Instead of setting them in the Beast Wars Uprising universe, we really should have tied them into the Pirates universe and really kind of not expanded more on that story, because actually that was a year we had a lot of great characters that weren't really like that little squid dude, the little what was his name, Squirm, the little human character, and the Lord Zarak's grandson or son, Olin Zarak. Those would have been 2 characters that would have been a lot of fun to give another 36 pages to, and I think we could have tied them in with like a Transmutate and a Rampage and done something with more of those characters. So that's one thing. I think I really love all the universes we set up. We still could have done Beast Wars Uprising, but I think there were a couple times where we could have brought the focus in a little bit more. There's, I'm sure, 20 more things that are in my head that I can think of. Next thing I gotta do with that. But just like, hey, you're your own worst. Yeah, you're always gonna be your own worst critic. It doesn't matter if you're an artist or you're you're washing windows. You're gonna, anything you do, you're gonna see something and go, you know what, I kind of didn't do a bit of a job that day or whatever. Do you have any questions? I mean, I'm happy to take questions.
We kind of skipped Sean's
Oh,
class oops.
did you? Well, John didn't have any class suits. All the classes were all fantastic. Well,
Let me sit up there for about 15-20 minutes, okay?
no, I mean, from a final product, I mean, I was always
Actual product, yes, actual product.
Yeah, he had a way of coming out of the trenches, kind of gleaming, but well in those trenches, it got pretty dirty.
Well, yeah, like, I guess the worst one would have been the 2012 Shockwave one arm, or the samples I got.
Got screws.
Yeah, there's a long screw, like 8 long, that went through the shoulders and all the way into the headlights, and it held the whole torso together. And the sample I got, that thing just went in, it just like butter. It just screwed in there. It only had a screw in like a quarter of an inch maybe. Just beautiful, right? So we get in class the first thing, hand out all the kits and everything, breaking everything apart. pretty soon they're trying to put this together, and you're like, this doesn't work like in the book. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, they're all pins. You have to push them in, and oh my god. So what went from like a number 10 is the easiest. It went from 10 to about 2.
Or the Thursday class, like
Yeah.
the Wednesday class.
Yeah. So yeah, it was a quick scramble, like, oh god, how do we fix this? How do we fix this? We managed to make it adequate. I wouldn't say perfect, but I don't think anybody left with one that kind of fell apart.
Yeah, that was one of the years where I actually got to sit in and help the class. And I still laugh at it looking back because I was doing the springs for the feet. There's I had a success rate of like 50%. And I'm like sitting there thinking, why can I only do this half the time? And I'm realizing it's left and right, you're flying the other way.
Yeah, the springs were kind of a pain, but once you got your groove on, it
Yes.
was pretty easy.
And and part of the reason, I mean, it's kind of funny. I know, it's been 3 years, and why are we doing a panel on this? As I was just sitting here thinking about it, and I think one of the reasons is because all 3 of us are involved with this show, and what we did there definitely also not just from logistic, marketing, product, even little things like the Keshi stuff like that. Is I know the first year we did what could have been the Robocon 2017 set is because we learned so many lessons from there. I felt like we were getting better. And it's like we just kind of that's translated into what we do here. But when you do something for 12 years of your life, it kind of is part of what you're doing currently. So it's hard not to think about the present sometimes in the terms of the past too, and think about and just kind of learning from those lessons and making sure, again, just from the logistics standpoint, we're still learning. The logistics standpoint, market standpoint, and even any product that we might be doing and working on, and how things that we learned from those experiences affect what we do now. And then again, like thinking back about some of the things. Like I said, I could talk to you about logistics stuff. There's definitely things that even we do with running the show that maybe I don't feel like work with Botcon that we do differently here. And then there's like little simple things that I felt like were just the most simple, brilliant things that other shows don't do. Like it's silly as it seems, it's just not only having your schedule on the back of your badge, but when you flip it over, it being printed upside down. So you see it like that. And a lot of shows, I don't know.
A lot of shows don't even give you badges. You just get a little wristband.
So
and
I think that is one of the things I carry. I mean, there are plenty of things I've carried over from Fun Pub on the way I approach things, and then there's things I left with Fun Pub on how I approach things. So, but if you guys have any, like I said, I'm not getting into logistics. I could tell you all day about logistics. I mean, the funny thing is with any show, if a show runs smoothly on the front end, what you guys see, the odds are is it still ran really poorly behind the scenes. And that's probably just about every show. When I say really poorly, I don't mean it was a disaster. What I'm saying is you always feel like there's always some small fire or something you're forgetting or whatever. And that was like, it felt like that was like BotCon every year. But it wasn't knock on the company. It's just you have to make sure that you are everybody's got to be doing their job and doing their game. And like the one smallest thing, like if something doesn't show up or the truck breaks down or the truck is stupid as this time. Yeah, or if you get to a hotel and the truck can't get in because there's a yellow pole right there. I can't remember which was that.
That was
Yeah, because there's a yellow pole right there that has no business being there in the loading dock because they are equipped with trucks this big, but not this big. How that could just throw everything, because then all of a sudden you're thinking you have to load it on by hand, and that throws the entire day off. And if that throws that entire day off, that throws the next day off. I mean, it's amazing how, again, the smallest snafu, and that's everything in life, can just completely sideways. So you've got to be able to handle that and adapt and adjust on the turn of the dime. So like I said, I can tell you every logistical story, but one thing I felt like we definitely did at Fun Pub was those last 4 or 5 years. Again, there was always fires, but they always were small and never put out quickly. And we really had it fine-tuned towards the end those last 4 or 5 years. So, and that's just, again, lessons that we've learned, but then kind of taking this format to a new thing. I feel like this year is the smoothest it's been of the 3 years, and we're going to keep going from there. Question, sorry.
Yeah, you had mentioned the heads, like your mistake, your regrets, whatever, for the heads. I know one time you had talked about like kind of gauging interest, and if you guys just released a head pack to update all of those toys.
Yeah,
How far did that ever
that went
conceptually?
as far as me having it in my head and saying it to Jesse.
Pretty
Okay.
much. Like,
That wasn't a.
that was something like we realized quickly that Hasbro wouldn't let us do because the way that a lot of Transformers are built, you have that little tiny screw in there, and you got a head that pops in half. So instantly you have choking hazard like 3 different ways right
Right.
there. So
And even that aside, by the time, I mean, it was time I was having that idea and talking to Jesse about it was about the same time that
Yeah.
we found the contract was going away. So right here, red shirt.
That's me. You ever heard of Robocon 1996, overseen by Men in Black Productions?
I may have some. I am so for the record. I again not saying it with to sound pretentious. I actually have attended every single BotCon, so I was at that show with Carl Hartman, who's in the back of the room right now. There's again, Carl. Who's the co-founder of BotCon. But yes, I was at BotCon 96 with Men in Black. What was your question?
According to TF Wiki, to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Transformers movie, Men in Black held a birthday party featuring a screening of the film on a widescreen TV and a birthday cake, a very generic birthday cake.
oh yeah.
The sealed VHS copy of the movie, opened just for the occasion, did not actually work, although Men in Black were somehow able to acquire another functional copy from an attendee after several minutes. Unfortunately, that did not alleviate the fact that they neglected to produce forks for the cake. Also, water was served as a drink out of McDonald's keg, not even a fancy orange drink they normally use. Also, no lanyards were available to dealers or attendees. Identification was done via generic "Hi, my name is" stickers, which the staff ran out of by day 2, resulting in people just waltzing in unchecked by the end of the show. Needless to say, Men in Black was not brought back to participate in BotCon 1997.
So it was. Now that was fine. Is there a question there, or was that just you? Because you just pretty much summed up the oops from '96.
I just wanted to throw that out there. I thought it was funny.
No, that's fine. That is great. It's funny. I was in ACMAT. Carl, were you at that? The birthday party for the movie?
I think we got that just as it was finishing up.
Yeah, I was there with Carl and John and Glenn Halleck, and I don't think I wasn't there. I heard about it. Now again, this is before the internet as we know it, before any type of social media. I mean, I'm sure there was some type of chat room, but nothing that anybody has any real access to like they do now. So this was things you heard about through the grapevine later, through talking on the phone. So it was not a widely reported thing. It's one of those things that goes on to kind of become the article you just read and kind of not an urban legend, but just kind of like that, that ball pit type of story, kind of convention ball pit type of story, if you are familiar with that. Yeah, that was bad. There's lack of preparation, and then there's totally miffing it. That was bad. I would like to think that we never had a miff that bad.
People talk about BotCon running from 1996 to 2016.
94.
94 to 2016. Is it still considered concurrent when you have that gap of OTFCC instead of BotCon as the name?
Yeah. Because let's see, there was BotCon in 2002. Yeah, I guess. I mean, I don't know how you really.
I don't really wasn't involved enough to know what was changing hands, how it was changing
Yeah, I mean,
hands,
2002
whether it became just was that a completely different convention concept versus?
Well, I mean, I think fans kind of consider it all part of the same family. Of course, there was the unofficial BotCon that John and Carl and myself did out in Pasadena in 2004. Where we probably could have used half the space. And Carl says I always say that every time I talk about it. But that was actually the 2004 show was a great show. It was a lot of fun. The OTFCC was 2003 and 2004, and of course that the split course, last year at the Robocon, it was great having actually the three of them all back together on a stage for the first time in
That was awesome.
15 years, however long it had been. And I hadn't seen Glenn in probably the same amount of time. And I've known Glenn about just as long as John and Carl, so that was kind of a fun thing. So yeah, I think it's all part of the same family in a way. I think at this point in time, I think it's kind of all wrapped in there. Especially the way that I think Fun Pub absorbed the legacy of Botcon. Obviously, it also took things from the 3H era too, like Pat Rat and Fractal. So I think it's all part. Well, that was '97, but I think there were other characters. In some of the stories I know were kind of told in universe. And then Dan Hanna came over from there. So too, a lot of stuff that actually was in 2005 was actually kind of ideas Dan Hanna had planned for OTFCC. So it's
Yay, 2 Christmases.
yeah, pretty much. Tony, do you have a question?
I'm a Megatron fan, so I'm wondering what did you think of getting to do Megatron for say 2006, 2008, 2015, and 2016?
Well, that kind of goes back to what Hasbro was saying about not wanting us to kind of stay away from what they were doing at retail. So if we did like a Megatron in 2008, maybe we Shattered Glass. In 2006, of course, they were doing it with Beast Wars. They're doing a Beast Wars Megatron was fine. So I like being able to do all the Megatrons. I thought it was. I always felt like it was important to do A-list characters and not just do super obscure characters, because I think at the end of the day you need fans still want. I understand you could say like again this before the 1,000 Bumblebees at retail type era, but and even after the movie started, it still wasn't like it is now, where you have Bumblebee as the focus of every series, every comic, every whatever. Even back in 08, 09, 10, 11, stuff like that. But I felt like you couldn't just go. You couldn't just say, okay, well, there's Optimus Prime and Bumblebee and a Megatron and Stars in retail, so we need to do, Nightbeat, Ruckus, another B and C list characters. So I always felt like you can do those, but you need to tie them to the A list characters. And that was still always a formula I feel like was successful. At the end of the day, it's your Primes and your Megatrons that are some of the most valuable of the Botcon toys, just straight up. And I think that was important. So.
Sean, got a question. What was the custom class? How much kind of control did you have over that? Or did you have any blowback, for ideas you may have had?
Sean will get mad at me because I sometimes tell him I like the toy, but I have to give him one.
He's not lying.
I inserted myself in the process a little bit more than he probably would have appreciated in the last few years. But again, that was from a marketing and a messaging standpoint. So we tried to find common ground.
I don't know you're inserting yourself in his response.
Well, I wanted to say it because he's not going to say it. So
I probably wouldn't say it.
I'll go ahead and that's what it was right there. I will go ahead and say what he's not going to say.
I would say though, easily 2/3 of the toys we did were things I wanted to do. I was usually given, here's your choice of molds, pick one. And my first criteria before anything else was always, what can we actually build? What can we put together that doesn't have rivets that we just can't do, or some obscure piece of hardware that
Could you imagine having to
where
build-
are we get the tools to assemble it?
Could you imagine having to build that side spec you did for this class? With all the hidden pins and rivets and.
Actually, I did take mine all apart except for the ones in the
Right.
shoulders.
Yeah, but that's you.
But that's
That's you taking.
Wait, yeah, the amount of time we had to do that,
That's not.
it wouldn't be practical in this setting and whatnot.
It's not like a mover where they're all the same screw and you put them.
Yeah.
There's no pins.
Like 2012 was not my idea. That wasn't one that I picked. That one was. I was kind of here.
Who was that? Was 2012.
Shockwave started with me. I wanted either him or Ravage from the tracks.
So you don't like that cash?
No, it's fine.
I don't like to hear long arm.
I don't. I still got to.
He got the long arm.
I got stuck with
So
Shockwave.
now I feel like I need to give him a different Kashi. I feel bad. I didn't know
I
what
kind of got stuck with doing Shockwave, but then I also turned it into Long Arm as an homage back to anime.
Right.
So I still got to do something.
Kinda.
Yeah, I thought that was fun.
2013 was another one where I was, the initial idea I can tell with, the initial idea
Probably should have left it.
that he
Yeah.
wanted me to be, it was gonna be the same mold, but it was gonna be tread shot.
Oh.
And it was tread shot for quite a few months.
Yeah, when you put the colors in the
Oh, when we
Yeah.
decided to make Tread Shot into an actual.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right,
Like,
yeah.
the colors were all submitted for the
Yeah,
color
when-
change, and everything, it was all good. And then Pete gets a hold of me and he says, nope, we're gonna take that and put it in the.
Well, that's a great compliment, right?
Oh, yeah,
You're-
I
yeah.
put it in the
I think like
FSS,
what,
which was the right thing to
as
do, it
far
was a
as
much
you were
better
dealing
FSS.
with it, or we actually did a mock-up of the colors, and we realized that it was so good that so many fans were gonna want it. Like, we can't just have it be a class B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
We
can't
have
another
Jitsu size five again.
Oh my God.
I agree with that.
That was another oops, and G2 size five absolutely should have been in the set, the custom should have been a more obscure character, sorry. Go on.
So for about a week, and we were stuck with the mold. So we had you got the Warpath mold. For about a week, it was going to be treads to go by. So I even went for like a week. Yeah, you don't even remember. It was going to be treads. I went on eBay, got myself a treads. It's going to have the Renegade logo on it because he's a good guy. He has the Renegade logo. And then I think Pete he said no, now it's gonna be Blast Charge. Okay, it's gonna be Blast Charge.
We needed
So that one
I think
changed.
we-
That was the one that had the most changes.
I think that was when we started looking and building the story, we realized like, yeah, we have all these random characters, we need to tie them back into each other somehow.
How is Trev really gonna fit into that
Yeah.
story? I mean, personally, I would have loved it. I thought it was really oddball.
Is that something like y'all tried to do with the custom class toy? Was to work it into the story? Even like I know Primal Prime was like
Yeah.
on an art piece. or
Originally, that was
whatever.
all Sean, like, he would come up with the character, he would come up with the deco, and then he would figure out how to tie it into the comic, even though they never appeared in the comic, like, because some of the.
Yeah, I always wanted it to fit in somehow, even
So,
if it was
yeah.
only in the bio.
Right.
Oh, that was
Or
another.
something really nitpicky. It would fit in
That was
somehow.
an oops in the comic, in the 2015 comic. I wrote just in the one panel that Primal Prime is in the panel. And then I got the art check and I cleared it because by the time I got the art check, I forgot that Primal Prime was supposed to be the class.
Oh, wow.
Let's
So it's
back that story
yeah.
up. So for 2014, they did the Apelings War Journals, right?
Mhm.
And all the ones that have to do with the records and Primal Prime, I wrote those. And I know they're not very expansive and not very big. I'm not a writer.
I was a big fan of those, by the way.
Oh,
the
thank
the
But
war
I
journals
tried
and
to put a
the
little
journals.
humor in it, and they let me do it. And okay, fine. So this is great. So at the end of it, I have the records got lost in some sort of spatial anomaly,
Mhm.
and they sent Fireflight back to Cybertron with the logs to say, hey, something happened and they're lost and whatnot. Well, I wanted them to have ended up on the Transtech Cybertron. So I wanted it to be drawn into the book where it was 2014 Primal Prime and Tap Out and whoever else, and that's where they ended up.
Hmm.
Or that's where they would have ended up. Obviously, it's not the same Primal Prime, so.
Just say you got a new body.
Yeah, he could have. I mean,
You reverted or something.
yeah.
Sorry, I ran a little side conversation.
So if anybody had this lingering, like, where did they go? That's where the attention was for them to have gone.
And that became like an emergency thing where, why is there a Prime there? Oh, he's part of the conflict, we gotta draw the little triangle on him now.
Which was certainly a lot easier to fix than.
We're gonna take two more questions, and then I need to do a couple things with you all here real quick. I need to do a quick poll real quick, and then we're gonna wrap up panels for the weekend.
Did you guys have any more ideas for like Shattered Glass stories or
gosh,
ideas?
I'm very happy with, look, it's not very often, and again, we have a very small corner. In a way, we had a very small corner of the Transformers brand. In another way, I feel like, anytime you have, I was talking to, what was I talking about? This stuff, so we've got a bunch of people at my house right now, as people come in, that's kind of where we that's base camp. Anytime, I was talking to Harold about this, anytime you see stuff you work on show up at retail, like the Masterpiece, Shattered Glass Prime, the
Heat wave.
the heat wave, which again was completely like whatever they call them,
Hero Masters.
Hero Masters. I'm sure that was someone on the brand team, marketing team who wasn't very familiar. with it and probably thought they probably were wanting to do a G1 inspired heat wave, which, by the way, I did come up with that name. I will take props for that, and I love the fact that I came up with that name. That carried on over into other names. That's another thing.
How did the breakaway names?
Breakaway name, and that was based on, if you want to think this is the dumbest story, the breakaway name was actually the very first Transformer I ever named, and that is named after the Kelly Clarkson song. If that wants someone else to put that on the wiki, that was, I don't know, I was trying, I'm not a, I can think of stories. I'm not a writer per se. I'm a story, broad sense guy, and names. That's just one thing that kind of escapes me. And breakaway totally. And they always sound cheesy to me. Like I don't know. Like you think about how Bob Budiansky came up with these names. I'll try to come up with a name, and they all sound just horrible to me. I remember hearing. I don't know if that song was on the radio, and I was like breakaway. We were trying to think of a name for the jet, and I wanted to come up with an original name. I'm like, oh my god, that's a great name, breakaway. When a plane breaks away. So, but it was that song that actually spawned it. Heatwave. I have no idea where that name came from, but I just said that was a good one. Anyways, that was, I'm sure somebody at Hasbro looking to do a G1 Heatwave, assuming that the rescue bot was based on a G1 character, and they Googled it, and that came up with the wiki page of our Heatwave from 2009, and said, yeah, we'll do that. That's one of our toys. Not realizing it was some completely obscure little club's toy at the time. We were pretty not that big of a deal. So that is great. And then the Rodimus, and then others, the Rodimus from Power of the Primes, the Shattered Glass, which they botched. And that's the little bit of dirt I'll dish on Hasbro. I cannot stand how much they sometimes feel like the consumers are not
Smart.
I don't want to say that. That they have to talk like a child to them, that they can't understand that because an Autobot's, that basically they call it brand confusion. That's the term. So it's brand confusion. You don't want to confuse the consumer, and that somehow that putting a purple Autobot Decepticon or purple Autobot symbol on the Rodimus and calling the Rodimus Prime or Shattered Glass or Mirrors, that's going to confuse the consumer. That kids aren't going to understand that there is a evil Autobot.
I don't think kids are gonna understand that Power of the Prime story anymore.
Well,
So why not?
I don't.
Well,
they were always very concerned about brand confusing and confusing the consumer. There's a lot of truth to that. Don't get me wrong. I'm a marketing guy. That's what my degree's in. I completely understand that. But at some point, you can also give credit to your consumer and realize that they're a little bit more savvy sometimes than the 25-year-old marketing intern that's fresh on the brand and still. So that's that. But that should have been. I wish I would have had that. But that was a great one that I think was another throwback to us. So I really do like the fact that the stuff that we did in this little small corner of the universe. The small corner of the brand has had such an impact on the larger part of the field.
Well, it's like we're getting a Red Wing in a month or two,
Which,
and
yeah,
that's
that's
you know?
insane. I don't understand that.
and then we got the G2 Combat Megatron. And it's like that's not coincidence.
With the minor head too, the IDW.
Oh, and the fact that the Gridman anime referenced Shattered Glass.
Oh,
yeah.
Who put those stickers on their custom size plate, by the way? The Gridman stickers? Anybody do that?
I didn't sticker mine up.
That actually was a giant compliment. That actually was one of the that's I'm actually just thrilled about. So, was there one more question? Did you have one? No. Okay. No. No. I thought I saw your hand earlier. Okay.
Going back to BotCon 2013 and mold availability, I like the set for the most part as it was, but then after the con ended, an idea hit me. The Reveal the Shield Lugnut mold, I think, would have been more proportionally accurate to Obsidian's physique. Was that mold ever on the table for use, either at that con or in general?
Yeah, I think we were just having a hard time finding the guy that would fit in general.
That might be partly me. I refused to come up with any ideas for that one because when I got it, I don't know why I did not like that mold.
Really?
Yeah. So I mean, there was clever ideas to it, but I don't know if it was my copy or what. But it just didn't hold together. So I'm like, we can't do an exclusive out of this mold if it, was,
Probably got it done.
yeah, I think I got it done, and that's why we never got a repaint of it.
Now, I kind of want to see it done as Power Flash, but
So my,
Just the cockpits on the side.
Yeah.
oh yeah, I still have hundreds of concepts that will just bounce back and forth between Jesse, and maybe we'll try to throw all of those out there one day just for people to, I don't know if anyone really cares at this point, but I mean, just kind of throw them out there for people to look at. You can only rehash the past so many times. So speaking of not rehashing the past and moving forward, well, that was a great segue. Who all, is anyone here from Cincinnati? Who all lives within a half hour of the hotel here? Okay, so most of you are, how many of you have been traveling like more than 2 hours? Okay, all right. So I guess my thought is, as the day has unfolded and kind of knowing this in the back of my mind to see how this weekend was gonna play out, knowing that I live in Cincinnati and knowing how Cincinnati is, knowing what we want to do with the show, I think right now where I'm sitting and where I'm standing, and Jesse and I will talk more about this. I've already said something about this, I believe, today, right? I've been talking to dealers about it. I'm very, very happy with our dealers. A lot of them are longtime associates, and not just me here with Robocon, with Robocon. I need to make sure they're taken care of, and that they're getting, that they're optimizing their sales for the amount of time that they're putting into the show. We need to make sure that we are optimizing it. I know I've got a pretty good feeling about how much is walking, how many people are traveling right now. Again, I live in Cincinnati. I know Cincinnati can be a really tricky area. I've been very happy with these first three shows. This has kind of been like, in my mind, this is kind of us wrapping up the trilogy of the first three. We're definitely doing a show next year. It most likely will not be here. We probably will move to another city. Again, I really like it if the show would have done, I mean, I'll be straight up, if we would have had probably another 150 people through the door day, we could definitely look at growing this. But again, Cincinnati is a really tricky city. It's really hard to get people to show up that are locals. There's other cities. Again, and this is something I learned from BotCon. This is why we moved BotCon around, because I thought we maybe should have gotten a little bit more of a rotating schedule, but and Brian did too. But there's cities that work and there's cities that don't work. And again, Cincinnati worked pretty well this first 2 years. But I think we need some new, fresh blood in. I think we need a new fan base. And maybe there might even be more than one Robocon. I don't know. But right now, we probably will not. I mean, I've really enjoyed my experience here. I know Jesse has as well. I'll speak for him on that regard. The hotel staff is great. But I think it's probably time to move to a different location. So I hope you all, if you like to follow us.
Tell us where.
Look, this is literally, this was the, I gotta wait to see how things unfold today. It will be within driving distance of me, because me and the staff, we're at a size of the point where, again, we don't have the overhead, or we have the overhead, I'm sorry, we don't have the budget for that type of overhead of moving, of flying around capacity. And I'm not going to California to do the show. One of the things I really, as someone who's been involved in conventions almost now for over half my life, in some regard, in some way, conventions are becoming more regional. The Comic-Con, San Diego Comic-Con, that formula is gone. You can go see, I mean, there'll still be a San Diego, don't get me wrong. I mean, you're probably like, what's this idiot Cincinnati talking about? Yes, of course, Cincinnati's going to, Comic-Con's going to exist, but there are so many shows now. You don't have to travel 18 hours for your yearly fix in San Diego. You don't have to travel to New York. There are going to be so many shows. I think it's about going after your target market, your target audience, people that support you, and building on that and making sure you get a good experience each year, and maybe kind of moving around and drawing some new people in. You might want to travel with you, go somewhere else the next year. But yeah, I think if you're all willing to, it's really the feeling I kind of have is you guys will kind of still come with us where we go. I just want to be able to keep bringing in new blood. We got to keep bringing in new people that might not be able to travel, or maybe someone who's down here and says, you know what, it was just a little bit closer, I would have been able to go. And then you're a little bit closer and they do go, and then maybe you move over here and they go, well, you know what, I had a really good time out here, so I'm willing to make the trip. So I think we got to kind of go out and kind of and move around a little bit. I have a couple places in mind already, but.
I was going to really quick, you mentioned that some cities weren't really great for conventions. Can you give any more details of some that really worked or some that really didn't work?
St. Charles, Illinois. Springfield, Illinois. We had the greatest on. This is the last thing we talk about. I'm gonna switch to GI Joe for a quick second. We had the best viral marketing that we ever had with the Cobra Commander. That was an idea that came about. It was a group thing. I had said something about that we needed to have Cobra Commander meet the mayor. Or no, Brian said we need to have Cobra Commander meet the mayor. And I said, yeah, you should give him the key to the city. Like a joke thing, because I know that was kind of thing. And that's what we arranged. And that ended up on Kevin Smith's podcast. It ended up on
The Daily Show
Chris
too,
Martin
didn't it?
things. Daily Show ended up on MSNBC. We had the best. We could have put, first of all, Hasbro wouldn't. If they would have gotten behind it, but again, they just kind of let us. I think they were impressed, but they're never going to give us props for it. If we could have gotten Hasbro to fully support that whole thing to happen and actually been in a city that mattered, this is Springfield, Illinois. If we'd been in Indianapolis that year, or been in Louisville, or been in Pasadena, or been in somewhere, we would have had great traffic. Well, we were in.
It had to be
Springfield.
Springfield.
Yeah, that was. I know.
That's for.
But it could have been the mayor of, and it would for hardcore Joe fans, yeah, they get the Springfield thing.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
But if it had been, if we had, yeah, and so it's almost like chicken and egg thing. Had we been in another city, we would have had that idea. Probably not. But the point is that it just worked out that yeah, maybe you can't have one without the other. But see, that's the thing though, is we could have taken a promotion like that somewhere else though, maybe. But the larger point is even without that though, there were cities that I just felt Disney was always a waste because of how much money people were already spending by the time they got in there. I mean they're already spending hundreds. Huh?
That was my 2010 was my first.
Yeah, it was a good show. You as a fan, but the dealers do horrible, and you need the dealers to make money because the dealers are ultimately
Plus, it was not very good for like walk-ins because it was a nightmare to get you.
We need.
Settled into it.
So where we're gonna look at, I mean, the long story short is this is never gonna be a Comic-Con format show. I don't care if we end up with 800 people, 1,000 people walking through the door. We're never gonna do the $40 guest for pictures, the 40 for autographs where you guys are saying there's Comic-Con. My point is there's Comic-Cons for that. There's a Comic-Con in every city now. Every city. So
Alabama's getting its first one next month. I was
so this show will continue to stay focused on the vendors, on the artists, on you guys, on those that pre-register, making sure we do something special for you for keeping that pre-registration price low, but where you still get a shirt and a pin and some type of cool exclusive, whether it's something like we did here or if it's actually something licensed, something our own IP, there will still be things we're doing. But I want to thank you all so much. Jesse and I really, really appreciate you guys, everybody's supported the show for 3 years. We will be doing it again next year. We just won't be doing it here. That just means making my job a little more difficult because now I got to find a new place. But but the nice thing was in the last few years I was kind of running around Brian scouting and doing the meets. So I am familiar with doing all that. So I'll have to set that up. But there you go. Thanks, guys. We have my original plan was just to sell the Keshi, the extra ones online for non-attending packages, but if you guys are interested, we are going to be selling them at the club store. We're going to be selling the ticket booth. I think the price I sell it on, I was coming up with a price that's fair based on what we did already and the effort and time Jesse put into them. Plus the fact that if you guys don't buy them, I am going to open them up to general admission to buy. So it's kind of, we're going to do $50 each. If you're interested, you can choose whichever one you want. If not, no worries. These were limited to only 72. So, the little
Keshi.
the little Keshi thing. Those were based on a BotCon 97 concept that Carl, John, and Glenn did. It was something that meant a lot to me that year, getting something, a little hand painted. I got my little hand painted Ricochet home with a little stamp that said BotCon Theater exclusive. Maybe 20 years from now, you guys will look back and be like, that was a pretty cool little thing. I still have mine sitting on my desk. We wanted to do something cool like that for you. If you're happy with your one, that's fine. If you want a second or third one, by all means, like I said, it'll be $50 up at the thing. You'll get another stand. You get the little card. And you know what we'll throw in for that? No, that's all we do. All right, that's what we'll do. I was thinking about another grand prize too, but I don't want to wait the scales. So we'll do that. I'll tell you what, if you guys want no face painter fee. Never mind, that's it. All right. Come see me in my booth. If you buy another one, I'll give you a deal on something. Thanks, guys.